the other thing I want to mention actually is the guest thing. I find this really interesting because I feel like we've approached a lot of people and pretty much everybody's always said yes, because everybody loves to be on a podcast that I find. And the most interesting one for me was, I don't know if you know a guy called Mark Sumner, he's a technology recruitment guy. He's got a decent following on LinkedIn. Anyway, he met Stephen Bartlett at an event, and he just said to him, look, would you mind joining me for my podcast? This was last year, by the way. So he was still pretty big back then. And he said yes. And he's now got a conversation that he's got content around, and he's spoken to Stephen Bartlett. So I think, going back to your point, Vinay, I think we can try and aim as high as we like, because actually most people are open to it, because it's kind of exposure for them as well, isn't it, in a sense?
Yeah. I'd wholeheartedly agree. There are a couple of guests I've had on my show who I fanboyed over massively. Not as big as Stephen Bartlett, I must say.
Yeah.
But one of which was Bob Berg, who Vinny will know definitely. The instigator of the famous phrase, "all things being equal." And I have to get that bit in because that's the bit everybody misses. He gets really annoyed with that. Bob, if you're listening,
get it right.
All things being equal, people will buy from other people that they know, like, and trust. And I lived by that for so many years. And somebody tagged Bob in my comments on LinkedIn, and I thought I was being really cheeky. I was like, "Bob, would you like to be on my podcast?" And when he responded, and he went, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he was a phenomenal guest. And I've done that a couple of times. I've had people who I never thought, Sarah Templeton, who's now my charity partner for my podcast, and we're working together, came because I was blown away by the book that I was listening to. And I had the audacity to send her an email and thank her for it and ask if she'd be on my podcast. And she said, yeah. And so they're just people like us. They're all publicity is good publicity. And I think that's fair game. But I think this leads into a really interesting point.